Hey, happy Monday. Thanks for joining us here on 9 News Plus. I'm 9 News meteorologist Chris Bianchi. To look at your Colorado weather forecast, and also we'll take a look at that Buffalo forecast for that Broncos game tonight. Could get some minor impacts from the weather out there, but in the meantime, for today, we are looking, and again, overall, pretty comfortable weather for us here across eastern Colorado. One thing to watch out for will be some high fire danger, especially east of Denver, where there will be some notably gusty winds at times. Could see some gusts up to about 40 miles an hour. But right now, this is Loveland ski area. Loveland opening its doors this weekend for the first time for ski season. Yes, I know. We're all excited about that. Ski season underway. You can see some of those skiers flying down the slopes there on Loveland there at about 11,400 feet in elevation. And for today, lots of sunshine. So a bluebird day, an early November bluebird day up in the slopes. Now, here in Denver, we've of course already had our first snow of the season, pretty notable one back in late October. Nothing in the foreseeable future, but next week does look to be a bit more interesting. In the meantime, temperatures in the 60s, lots of sunshine. That will again be in the offing for not only today, but for most of the rest of the week. So it stays warm and dry. High fire danger east of Denver and cooler looking that way, at least for next week. We'll get into that coming up here in the next few minutes. But red flag warning until 5 o'clock today. Could see some gusts up to about 40 miles an hour. This would be eastern Adams and Arapahoe counties, as well as eastern Elbert, Morgan, and then Logan County and Washington County on east. That's where we're looking at those red flag warnings. So avoid outdoor burning. Anything with a spark outdoors today, not a good idea. Just, again, one of those be smart days here on the eastern plains. Any fire that starts could spread pretty quickly with those 40-mile-an-hour gusts and a pretty dry air mass and those warm temperatures. Otherwise, HE Doppler radar about as quiet as can be for us here across the state, and it's going to stay that way through the rest of today. Maybe a few high clouds mixing their way into the skies later on tonight, but not a big deal. Temperatures right now, 57 for us here in Denver. That is already above our average high for today. Our average high for today is 54, so I'm talking about these upper 50s. We're well above that already. Greeley, one of those kind of notable cold spots of course, Greeley there on the South Platte River. A little bit of a low spot, and that colder, denser air likes to kind of sink down into some of those low areas. That's why Greeley, you might notice why it's a little colder up there for friends up there in Weld County. It's because, again, some of that colder air that's kind of pooling down at the surface there. For today, though, mid-60s for us here in Denver. Very, very nice day. Cool fall, I should say cool, warm fall weather for us. Again, this is about 10 degrees above our seasonal average, and we're going to stay that way throughout much of the rest of the week. 60s, 70s, eastern plains. This would be more typical, or these would be our average highs in mid-October, not mid-November. So we're about a month off in terms of these highs for today, at least in terms of those seasonal averages. 50s for the most part into the high country. For tonight, temperatures drop back into the upper 30s. It's mostly clear. It is cool for us. That sunset at 4:44. And of course, another thing going on tonight on the other side of the country in Buffalo, New York, in Orchard Park, temperatures will be in the low 40s. But for the Broncos game against the Buffalo Bills in Orchard Park, that is about 15 miles south of Buffalo. And those winds will be a little bit notable. It's going to be somewhere in between breezy and windy. I wouldn't call it windy, but I also wouldn't call it a light breeze either. Again, somewhere in that middle ground where the wind will probably be noticeable. Those winds will gradually decrease through the game. So maybe the first half, you'll notice that wind fluttering around there in Orchard Park. But it is mid-November. And if you know anything about lake effect snow and this part of the country, this time of year, Buffalo, New York can get huge snowstorms this time of year. In fact, you might remember a year ago that Buffalo had 70, in fact, Orchard Park, where this game is being played, they had 77 inches of snow in a single storm almost to the day a year ago today. So when I saw this Broncos-Bills game, I saw mid-November, I said, oh boy, you can get any kind of weather this time of year, and you can get these huge lake effect snowstorms. Again, October, November, early December is when Buffalo is very famous for getting these kinds of snowstorms. And so this is kind of smack dab in the middle of that season. So I will take this very, very gladly. And I'm sure the Denver Broncos are as well. And shout out to Johnny Curtin and Scotty Gange, our 9 News Sports. Our 9 News Sports Department is out at the game for tonight, and I'm sure they're very grateful that it is not snowing feet of snow right now in Buffalo. So needless to say, a little light wind, but I don't have to tell you, it could be a lot worse in Buffalo this time of year. Lows for tonight, 20s, 30s across states, some teens and some of those cold spots in the high country. For tomorrow, even warmer than today. We'll be near 70 degrees for us. Again, our average high, mid-50s. So when we're talking about these upper 60s, near 70 degrees, that is very warm for this time of year. 40s, 50s in the high country. That's kind of not good news for the high country in particular. Reason being that kind of we've had some pretty decent storms already in the high country, but we're melting a lot of that snow we picked up in the last few weeks with those temperatures that'll be well into the 40s and 50s. We don't want to be melting snow this time of year. This is late in the season for us to be melting that snow. We want to kind of be picking up that snow, or at the very least keeping whatever snow we've gotten mostly steady with minimal or low melting. Futurecast for tomorrow, lots of sunshine. That 7-day forecast, it is very tranquil. It is not until next week, and some details still lacking on this, but I will say that next week does look to be certainly much colder than this week, with temperatures probably topping out in the 30s and 40s for the most part for next week. We'll drop down. We'll start that drop down for Saturday and Sunday with some rain showers around. Sunday, right now, it looks like the Eastern Plains will get a pretty decent amount of rainfall. In Denver, it looks pretty minimal. I know the Broncos playing at home on Sunday as well. We'll get you more details on that forecast. But right now, anticipate a cooler day with some clouds and some showers around. But for next week, right now, the outlook is for a wetter than average weather pattern for us here across the state of Colorado, with also much colder temperatures also anticipated for next week. So the overall outlook, and again, specifics are lacking, and we'll try and get you some more of those as we get a bit closer to it. But I would say it's trending cooler, trending wetter for next week. At this point, we're not probably talking about some sort of monster snowstorm or that kind of look to things for next week. But I would say if you're planning on that Thanksgiving for next week, bring it inside. It is certainly trending on the cooler side. Right now, most of the computer models have us topping out in the 30s on Thanksgiving Day in Denver. So, again, if you're planning ahead, you're thinking about, I'll tell you what, I'm hosting Thanksgiving, so I'm going to tell my wife this later on tonight, that I think we should probably have that Thanksgiving celebration indoors with those chilly temperatures and the potential for some snow around the holiday. Again, at this point, it doesn't look like a barn burn or snowstorm, anything like that. It doesn't look like, for example, last Christmas. You might remember we had that huge cold front, some of that snow that moved through 2 days before Christmas. That was pretty easy to see about 7 to 10 days out. We're within that window, and it doesn't look like that for us here in Denver, but there's the potential for maybe some rain or snow for next week. And certainly the high country, I would anticipate some snow up in the high country as well. So, top line takeaways for today and for really the rest of this week: it's going to be mild and dry, and also with some of that high fire danger on the Eastern Plains. Here along the Front Range, still lower fire danger. No big concerns for us in the next few days, but as we get into the weekend, some rain likely moves back in the picture, and then next week it is trending wetter and cooler. And again, some of those early things to think about: Thanksgiving plans, bring them inside. I would safely do that. It's not going to be like this week. This week, obviously, if Thanksgiving is this week, you have those celebrations, I would imagine, outside. Next week, it's not going to be like that. And two, there's going to be the chance for some rain or snow around. We'll get you more details as it gets a bit closer. We're still 10 days out for Thanksgiving. Long ways to go, but early sign of things to be maybe a bit cooler, maybe some rain and snow around, but it doesn't look like a big deal if we got some rain or snow at this point. We'll get you more details as it gets a bit closer. Go Broncos tonight. More details for you coming up at 9 News at noon, and also at 2 p.m. here on 9 News Plus. And then we'll have Chief Meteorologist Kathy Saban in at 4, 5, 6, 9, 10 tonight on the 9 News Family Networks. Once again, I'm 9 News Meteorologist Chris Bianchi. Thanks for joining us here on 9 News Plus, and have a great rest of your Monday.